Welcome back to the Journeyman Podcast, everybody. We are so glad to have you back for episode 28.
28 already.
I know, right?
Hey.
Time flies when you're having fun exploring the world through these deep dives. If you're enjoying what we're bringing to the table, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
We love bringing you these stories, and there's always something new to uncover.
Absolutely. And today we're diving into the world of MrBeast.
AKA Jimmy Donaldson.
Exactly. We're going to try and go beyond just the viral videos and the crazy stunts and really understand the journey of this guy who went from, a self-described, quote, confused kid who didn't fit in to this global phenomenon and a legit business mogul.
That's quite the transformation.
It really is. And to help us break it all down, we're diving deep into MrBeast's interview on the Diary of a CEO YouTube channel.
It's an incredible interview. Definitely check it out.
You can find the link in the description below, so be sure to check out the full interview and subscribe to their channel too while you're at it.
They have some amazing guests on that show.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The interview starts off with MrBeast talking about his childhood, and one thing that really struck me was learning about his experience with bankruptcy.
At just 11 years old.
11 years old.
Yeah.
It's hard to even imagine going through something like that at such a young age.
It's a pretty stark contrast, right? Going from losing everything to building a multi-billion-dollar empire.
It's almost like a movie plot.
It is. But you can definitely see how that experience might have fueled his drive and ambition. In the interview, he talks about how it made him realize he never wanted to be in that position again.
To be in that position of uncertainty and fear.
Exactly. He wanted to build a future where he and his family were financially secure.
Makes sense. But even with that drive, some of the stories about his early work ethic are pretty wild.
This guy was obsessed with YouTube from a young age.
Obsessed is an understatement. Like, he even talks about quitting baseball in college to fully commit to his channel.
And then there's the story about that 18-hour Skype call he had with friends.
What, 18 hours?
Yeah, they were trying to reverse engineer how to make it big on YouTube.
I can't even imagine being on a Skype call for 18 hours.
That's the kind of detail that really stands out. It speaks to his relentless nature. He describes himself as incredibly stubborn and competitive.
Stubborn and competitive. Sounds familiar.
And, in the interview, he actually refers to his ability to obsess as his superpower.
It's fascinating, but also a little intimidating. 18 hours on a Skype call. I mean, there has to be a point where you just need to step away and take a break, right?
Right, and that's where it gets interesting. He talks about literally having the same thoughts circling in his mind over and over again.
Like stuck on repeat.
It allows him to stay focused and driven, but it also comes with a cost.
He mentioned struggling with his mental health.
He's very candid about the darker side of his success. He talks about dealing with unhappiness, having mental breakdowns, and facing constant pressure from being in the public eye. He even says, quote, "If I prioritized my mental health, I wouldn't be as successful."
Wow. So he's knowingly sacrificing his well-being to some extent?
It seems that way. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? He's achieving these incredible things, but it comes with a significant personal cost.
It definitely makes you think about the true meaning of success. Like, what are we actually striving for?
And at what cost?
But clearly he's found ways to cope with the pressure and challenges.
He has these interesting coping mechanisms. One of them is framing discomfort as motivation.
Discomfort as motivation. That's an interesting way to look at it.
It is. He finds joy in tackling what he calls consistent, complex, hard problems.
So it's about challenging himself constantly.
Pushing his limits.
He seems to thrive on that.
Absolutely. But it's not all about pushing himself.
Yeah.
He also emphasizes the importance of not letting internet opinions dictate his actions.
That's probably a good thing, considering the amount of scrutiny he faces online.
He gets criticized for everything, even his philanthropic work.
Really? People criticize him for giving away money?
It's crazy. He even mentions in the interview that if you're trying to be liked on the internet, maybe helping people isn't the way to go.
That's messed up.
It is. It's almost like he's saying that doing good deeds can actually attract more negativity than just buying fancy cars and following the typical influencer path.
It's a pretty sad commentary on internet culture.
Yeah, people are so quick to judge and find ulterior motives.
It's definitely something to think about. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about his team, because he obviously doesn't do all of this alone. He's built a pretty impressive organization around him.
It takes a village to build a MrBeast empire.
So what does he look for in the people he works with?
Oh, he's big on coachability.
Yeah.
He wants people who are eager to learn and adapt.
Makes sense. The online world is constantly changing.
Exactly. What works today might not work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So being able to evolve and iterate is crucial.
We got to stay ahead of the curve.
He also looks for people who genuinely believe in his company's mission,
Yeah.
people who share his obsession with pushing boundaries.
So it's not just about skills, it's about mindset too.
And this might sound counterintuitive, but he really dislikes mediocrity.
Really? I would have thought he'd want a few more laid-back people on the team to balance out the intensity.
He calls these people C players, and he believes they can drag down the entire company culture.
Interesting take.
He wants everyone to be fully invested and dedicated to excellence. I guess in a way it makes sense. If you surround yourself with driven, passionate people, that energy can be infectious.
It's like building a team of super motivated individuals all pushing toward a common goal.
Exactly. And he doesn't just demand excellence, he invests in his employees. He's willing to spend time and resources training them, knowing that the long-term payoff is worth it.
It sounds like he's built a culture of loyalty and skill within his company.
Absolutely. And, we've talked a lot about MrBeast and YouTube, but his business empire extends way beyond that. He's venturing into new territories and disrupting industries.
This is where things get really interesting. Tell me about Feastables, his chocolate company.
Feastables is a lot more than just a celebrity side hustle. It's about ethically sourced chocolate, and Jimmy's motivation goes way deeper than just making a profit.
So it's not just about slapping his name on a candy bar.
Not at all. He's on a mission to disrupt the entire chocolate industry.
Disrupt it. What's wrong with the way chocolate is made now?
Well, one of the things that really bothered him was the prevalence of child labor in cocoa farming, especially in West Africa.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
He learned that millions of children work on these farms, often in dangerous and exploitative conditions.
That's awesome.
It's a very serious issue. And a lot of big chocolate companies turn a blind eye to it, prioritizing profits over ethics.
But not Jimmy.
Not Jimmy. He's committed to making Feastables a model for ethical production.
So he's trying to change the game.
He wants to show the world that you can build a successful, profitable business without exploiting children.
So he's sourcing his cacao beans differently.
Exactly. He's paying farmers a living wage and ensuring that there's no child labor involved in any part of the process. He even refused a $5 billion buyout offer for Feastables because he was concerned the new owners would compromise on his ethical standards.
Wow. He turned down $5 billion.
He did. He's really putting his money where his mouth is. That's incredibly impressive.
It really is. And his attention to detail extends to every aspect of the business. From packaging design and product quality to shelf placement, he obsesses over it all.
Yes, he's a perfectionist. He wants everything to be just right.
I remember reading that he likes to visit Walmarts and check out how his chocolate bars are displayed.
He does. He'll drive to multiple Walmarts, scan his products, analyze the sales data, and even talk to employees about customer feedback.
Seriously, that's dedication.
He's not afraid to get into the nitty-gritty details of the business. He wants to understand the entire customer journey.
That's hands-on. You'd think with all his other projects, he'd just delegate that stuff.
That's just not his style. He needs to be hands-on to understand the nuances of the business firsthand.
I guess that hands-on approach is a big part of what makes him so successful.
Definitely. Speaking of success, we can't forget about Beast Games.
Ah, yes, the spectacle of all spectacles. Tell me everything. The scale of the production, the money involved, the behind-the-scenes craziness. Lay it on me.
It was absolutely wild. We're talking 50 Guinness World Records, broken millions of dollars in prizes given away, and some of the most elaborate sets I've ever seen.
It was insane. Like he built an entire functioning city for one of the challenges.
It's true. And then there was that insane obstacle course where contestants had to navigate these towering structures and complete these crazy tasks. People were getting eliminated left and right.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
The level of detail and production value was off the charts.
Watching it, you almost forget it's a YouTube production.
Yeah.
It feels like a Hollywood blockbuster.
Right. But all that spectacle must have come at a price.
Oh, I'm sure it did. How much did this thing cost him?
He actually admits to losing tens of millions of dollars on Beast Games.
Tens of millions.
Right.
What? Seriously, why would he risk that much money?
Well, remember what we were talking about earlier? His drive to constantly push boundaries and do things that have never been done before.
So it wasn't just about making a profit.
Exactly. He wanted to create something groundbreaking, something that would elevate the whole YouTube community. He even says in the interview that he thinks Beast Games opened doors for other creators to get involved in projects with major streaming platforms like Amazon.
So even though he lost money on Beast Games, he sees it as a long-term investment in the future of content creation.
That's exactly how he frames it. He's always playing the long game. And he's clearly not afraid to take risks, even if it means short-term losses.
It's a bold approach, but it seems to be working for him. But all this success must have a personal cost too, right?
Yeah, he's very open in the interview about the sacrifices he's made. He describes his schedule as chaotic, constant travel, filming in crazy locations, barely any sleep.
He was just in South Africa, right? Filming some challenge with wild animals?
Yeah, and then he was in Florida the next week filming something with sharks. I mean, the guy is constantly on the move.
That sounds exhausting.
And it's not just the physical toll it impacts his relationships, too. He talks about the challenges of maintaining a healthy work-life balance with that kind of schedule.
He's engaged now, isn't he? I wonder how his fiancée handles his lifestyle.
She seems to be incredibly understanding and supportive. He even mentions that she's willing to adapt her life to his work demands, which is probably a necessity given the intensity of his work.
It probably takes a special kind of person to be in a relationship with someone like Jimmy.
He also talks about wanting to have kids eventually, but he acknowledges that he needs to find a way to be more present before taking that step.
That makes sense. Being a good father is a huge responsibility, especially with his level of fame and influence. It's not something you can just phone in.
He seems to recognize that he wants to make sure he can be the best dad possible, which I think is really admirable.
It's interesting to hear him talk about all of this.
Yeah.
He's achieving incredible success and reaching his goals, but he doesn't come across as someone who's truly happy.
That's a great observation. It's almost like he's chasing this idea of happiness, this vision of a perfect future, but he's not quite there yet. He even describes feeling unhappy more often than happy.
It makes you wonder, is it all worth it in the end? What's the point of all the ambition and striving if you're not genuinely happy?
It's the age-old question, isn't it? And I think it's a question a lot of driven people face. You get so caught up in achieving your goals that you can lose sight of what truly matters.
So how do you find that balance? How do you pursue your dreams without sacrificing your well-being?
That's the million-dollar question, and I don't think there's an easy answer. It's about finding that sweet spot, that equilibrium between pursuing your goals and living a life that brings you genuine joy. And it's something we all need to be mindful of, regardless of what we're striving for.
It's about finding that alignment between our external achievements and our internal state of being.
Exactly. But there's one more fascinating aspect of Jimmy's journey that we need to touch on. Something that came up multiple times throughout the interview and seems to be at the core of his work ethic and approach to life.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's his unwavering belief that nothing is impossible.
That's classic MrBeast. He's always pushing the boundaries of what people think is achievable.
And it's not just talk. He backs it up with his actions. Think about those elaborate sets we discussed, the millions he invested in Beast games, his commitment to ethical sourcing. It's all evidence of this core belief that if you set your mind to something, you can make it happen.
And it's infectious. It seems like his team, his collaborators, even his viewers, all buy into this idea that anything is possible.
It's a powerful mindset to have, but it also requires a certain level of risk tolerance. You have to be willing to embrace failure.
He talks about how important it is to experiment, to test new ideas, and not be afraid of things flopping.
He's not afraid to make mistakes as long as he learns from them. He actually said, if physics allow it, then yes, it's possible.
So he doesn't believe his success is due to some special talent or ability.
He doesn't. He attributes it to mindset dedication and a willingness to put in the work. He even said, I'm just really good at obsessing over one thing more than anyone else on the planet.
It's a simple statement, but it speaks volumes about his approach to life. He's not afraid to go all in.
And that level of focus is what sets him apart. He's not just working hard, he's working smart. He's constantly analyzing, iterating, and finding ways to improve.
It's a masterclass in hustle.
You could say that,
No.
but it's also a reminder that success doesn't happen overnight. He spent years grinding, experimenting, and building his audience before he hit it big.
Yeah, he was making videos for years before anyone was really paying attention.
And he never gave up. He kept pushing, kept learning, and eventually his hard work paid off.
It's an inspiring story.
It is. But as we've been discussing, his journey hasn't been without its challenges.
There's a human side to MrBeast that we don't always see in those viral videos. The struggles, the sacrifices, the toll it takes on him.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that he's not just this larger-than-life persona. He's a real person with real emotions and real problems.
He's a reminder that success isn't a cure-all. It comes with its own unique set of challenges and complexities.
He's also a reminder that we're all human. We all have our own struggles, our own sacrifices, our own internal battles.
It's part of the human experience.
It is. And you know what impresses me most about Jimmy is his willingness to be vulnerable. He talks openly about his flaws and his insecurities.
He doesn't try to present this perfect image of himself. He's honest about his mental health struggles, the mistakes he's made, the times he's felt like giving up.
And that's what makes him so relatable. He's not this untouchable superhuman figure. He's someone who's going through the same ups and downs as the rest of us.
It's a reminder that we're all in this together,
Yeah.
even the most successful among us.
Exactly. And I think there's something incredibly powerful in that message.
It's a message that can resonate with anyone, no matter their background or aspirations.
Absolutely. So as we've been talking, it's become clear that Jimmy Donaldson is a complex and fascinating individual.
He's a bit of an enigma. He's this driven, ambitious entrepreneur who's also incredibly generous and philanthropic. He pushes himself to the limit, but is aware of the toll it takes on his well-being. He's a master of online entertainment, but he's deeply committed to making a real-world impact.
It's a unique combination of traits. It makes you wonder, what's next for MrBeast? What other boundaries will he push? What other industries will he disrupt? What other ways will he use his platform to make a difference?
I have a feeling this is just the beginning of his journey.
I think you're right.
His story is a whirlwind of ambition, struggle, and innovation.
It really is. And it makes you think, doesn't it? What stood out to you the most?
For me, it's that contrast. We were just talking about how he built this billion-dollar empire, but he's still wrestling with these questions about happiness and purpose. It's a good reminder that success is a journey.
Yeah, not a destination.
Exactly. And it's rarely smooth or straightforward.
That's definitely not. There are bumps, sacrifices, moments of doubt and despair.
But maybe that's what makes it so compelling. The struggle, resilience, the striving. That's what shapes us and defines our impact.
Well said. It makes you wonder, though, is that level of success and impact worth the personal sacrifices he's made? It's clear he's given up a lot. His health time with loved ones, a sense of normalcy, that's a trade-off a lot of people wouldn't make. It's a tough call. It really makes you think about your values. What are we willing to give up for our goals? At what point does the pursuit of success become detrimental to our well-being?
It's a question we all have to grapple with. There's no right answer, but it's something worth reflecting on.
It's about finding that balance, right? That alignment between our external achievements and how we're feeling internally.
And it's not like you figure it out once and you're done. It's an ongoing process. We're always growing, learning, and adapting.
That brings us to our final thought for you, dear listener. Think about your own goals. What would it take for you to achieve that level of dedication, that laser focus, that willingness to push through discomfort and uncertainty?
It's a powerful question to consider.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not about replicating MrBeast's level of intensity. Maybe it's about finding what truly matters to us and channeling that passion into action.
Maybe it's about finding that thing that lights you up inside that makes you want to get out of bed every morning and take on the world.
If we can find that thing and really hold on to it, maybe we can achieve anything. Well said. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of MrBeast, please subscribe to the Journeyman podcast for more. We love exploring these fascinating topics with you. And don't forget to check out the full MrBeast interview on the Diary of a CEO channel. The link is in the description.
It's a great interview, really insightful.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.